3 weeks of deafness changed my life forever. Not because I lost my hearing, but because I got it back. When you can't hear, people think they can say anything. My daughter thought so too. And what I heard when I came home from the hospital made me wish I could still be deaf. But it also gave me the perfect opportunity for revenge. The heart monitor's steady beep hit me like a symphony. After 3 weeks of absolute silence, that simple electronic pulse sounded more beautiful than any music. Mr. Brooks, Dr. Chen's voice came through crystal clear, not muffled, not distant, perfect. Can you hear me now? It's all back, I whispered, then louder, marveling at the sound of my own voice. Everything. Dr. Chen smiled. The inflammation has completely subsided. Your hearing is now testing at normal levels across all frequencies. 3 weeks ago, a construction site accident had stolen my world of sound. Complete deafness, they'd said. Maybe permanent. I signed discharge papers with shaking hands. The nurse, Patricia, explained my follow-up appointments, but I was only half listening. I kept thinking about Jessie's face when I walked through the front door and called out her name. She'd been taking such good care of me. The 15-minute drive home passed in a blur of rediscovered sounds. Traffic hummed, brakes squeaked, horns honked. I pulled into my driveway. Jessie's car was parked beside the walkway. I decided on the surprise. Walking up the front steps, I heard voices from inside. Jessie and Chris talking in what sounded like the kitchen. I slipped my key into the lock as quietly as possible and eased the front door open. God, that old burden is back home again. Jessie's voice carried from the kitchen, sharp with irritation. I froze, my hand still on the doorknob. Chris's voice followed. At least the insurance money helped with his medical bills. Could have been worse. My legs felt suddenly weak. I pressed my back against the hallway wall. This had to be a mistake. But Jessie's next words cut through any hope of misunderstanding. I just want this whole thing over with. 3 weeks of pretending to care about his every need. I'm exhausted. The world tilted around me. These were my daughter's words, speaking about me like I was some unwanted obligation. I remained perfectly still, listening to the two people I trusted most in the world, realizing they had no idea I could hear every word they were saying. I forced myself to stay upright. I needed to hear more. Moving carefully along the hallway, I positioned myself closer to the kitchen doorway. Sunset Manor has good reviews, Jessie was saying. And it's not too expensive. The insurance settlements should cover the initial deposit. Chris chuckled. Once he's out of here, we can finally start renovating this place. New kitchen. Maybe knock out that wall between the dining room and living room. The realtor said it could add $50,000 to the value, Jessie added. They were planning my life like I was already dead, discussing my house like it was already theirs. Think he suspects anything? Chris asked. Are you kidding? He can't hear a thing. Poor old man just sits there nodding and smiling while I write him notes. It's actually kind of pathetic. The contempt in her voice, my own daughter's voice, made my stomach turn. I had to test this. I had to see just how good their acting really was. Act confused. Act grateful. I walked into the kitchen, making sure my footsteps were slightly heavier than usual. Jessie and Chris's transformation was immediate and complete. Dad! Jessie jumped up, her face instantly flooding with what looked like genuine concern. She rushed over and took my arm gently. How are you feeling? You look tired. The voice that had called me a burden 60 seconds ago now dripped with fake sweetness. Chris raised his voice unnecessarily. Hey there, Thomas. How did the appointment go? I pointed to my ears with a questioning expression. Jessie immediately grabbed a notepad. She wrote, Doctor says hearing might return soon. That's wonderful news. Inside, I cataloged every detail of her performance. Chris leaned forward and wrote his own note. Maybe we should start looking into care options for when you're feeling stronger. Just temporary until you're fully recovered, Jessie added quickly below his words. Just so you have help with medications and physical therapy. Nothing permanent. I nodded eagerly. I noted how smoothly they transitioned from discussing nursing homes for my convenience to presenting it as temporary medical care. They'd thought this through. I played my part perfectly. pointing at things and looking confused, nodding gratefully when Jessie wrote down questions. I even managed what looked like a tired but contented smile when Chris patted my back. Every gesture felt like swallowing poison, but I forced myself to maintain the performance. Finally, I pointed upstairs and wrote my own note. Tired. Going to rest. Jessie hugged me and said loudly, "Of course, Dad. You rest as much as you need to." I walked slowly toward the stairs. Just before I reached the first step, I heard Chris's voice, much quieter now, but still perfectly clear. He bought it completely. I climbed those stairs one deliberate step at a time. I closed the door quietly and sat on the edge of the bed. The house felt different now. The walls felt like a trap. The daughter I'd raised and loved had become a stranger, and I was apparently nothing more than an obstacle between her and my money. I stared at the framed photo of Jessie at her college graduation. That girl was gone, but I was far from helpless. They thought they were dealing with a confused, deaf old man. They had no idea what they'd awakened. I moved carefully toward my bedroom door. The old house had excellent acoustics. The heating vent near the stairs carried sound from the kitchen beautifully. Sunset Manor is $4,800 monthly, Chris was saying when I reached position, but Medicare covers most if we get the right medical evaluations. Jessie's voice carried clearly. The realtor said we could get at least $470 for this place. After the mortgage payoff, that leaves us $320 for the down payment on that house in Whitefish. My home. They were discussing it like a commodity. What's the timeline? Chris asked. 2 months, maybe less. We need to establish a pattern of incompetence first. Document incidents, memory issues. Dr. Henderson owes me a favor. He could write up whatever evaluation we need. I gripped the banister so hard my knuckles went white. They weren't just planning to abandon me. They were planning to fabricate evidence of mental decline. My own daughter was plotting to destroy my reputation and independence. Footsteps moved across the kitchen floor, and Jessie's voice grew closer. I should check on him. Make sure he's not getting suspicious. I moved quickly but silently back to my bedroom, positioning myself as if I'd been napping. Jessie's footsteps climbed the stairs. Avoiding that creaky third step, I noticed. "Dad," she spoke loudly. "I brought you some tea." I opened my eyes slowly, blinking as if disoriented. Jessie stood in my doorway holding a steaming mug, her face arranged in loving concern that made my stomach turn. She set the mug on my nightstand right next to Margaret's ring dish. "You looked tired earlier," Jessie said, speaking slowly. "Are you feeling okay?" I nodded and reached for the notepad. I wrote, "Thank you. You're so good to me." The words tasted like poison, but Jessie's smile brightened. She patted my shoulder. "Rest as much as you need, Dad. Chris and I are taking care of everything." After she left, I heard her voice reporting back to Chris. "He's completely clueless, just like we planned. Drinking his tea like a good little patient." Chris chuckled. "Perfect. Maybe we should accelerate the timeline. Why wait 2 months? Henderson could do the evaluation next week." We say Dad's been having episodes, wandering, confused, forgetting to eat, leaving the stove on. Standard dementia stuff. That could work if we document a few more incidents over the next couple weeks. Exactly. By month's end, we could have him placed and be looking at house listings. I stared at the ceiling, mind racing. They weren't just betraying me. They were planning to erase me. But they'd made one crucial mistake. I reached for my wallet and pulled out a business card I'd kept there for 3 years. Robert Henley, attorney at law. Tomorrow I would call Bob. Tonight, I would listen to every word they said. The business card felt substantial as I walked to my study. I pulled open the filing cabinet and began searching through years of organized records. What I found made my chest tight with pain. Jessie's wedding receipt, $35,000. Student loan statements, $28,000 in payments. Apartment down payment, $15,000. Margaret's final medical bills, $67,000 I paid alone while Jessie found excuses to stay away. Over $100,000 given freely to a daughter who now called me a burden. I pulled out a photo from Jessie's college graduation. "I couldn't have done this without you, Dad," she'd whispered. The memory was a lie. The pattern was clear now. Jesse taking, always taking, while offering promises as currency for future needs. Margaret had seen the truth. There's a difference between helping and enabling, she'd said. And there's a difference between gratitude and entitlement. When I became the one needing care, Jessie had seen only an obstacle blocking her access to what she'd always considered rightfully hers. I placed the photo face down in the drawer. The girl in that picture was gone. In her place was a woman who would fabricate mental illness to steal my independence. But I wasn't confused. I was angry. I was going to call Robert Henley first thing in the morning. I woke the next morning with Robert Henley's business card still clutched in my hand. I made my way downstairs, moving with the careful, uncertain steps of someone still adjusting to hearing loss. Jessie's smile was bright and artificial. "Good morning, Dad," she called out loudly. "I made your favorite breakfast." I pointed to my ears. She grabbed her notepad. "Chris and I are going shopping this morning. Will you be okay alone for a few hours?" I wrote back, "Yes, thank you for taking such good care of me." After they left at 10:45 a.m., I waited exactly 15 minutes before reaching for the phone. "Robert, it's Thomas Brooks. I need to change my will immediately. It's urgent." "Thomas, I have to ask, are you experiencing any cognitive difficulties? Any confusion or memory issues?" I looked him directly in the eyes. "Robert, I need you to change my will so that everything goes to Michael. Everything. The house, the savings, the investments, all of it. And Jessie. Jessie gets $1,000 for reasons she will understand. This is quite a dramatic change from your current will. Are you absolutely certain? Draw the papers. I'll sign them today." For the next hour, we worked through the details. The house valued at $450,000. My savings at $180,000. Investments at $120,000. A total estate of approximately $750,000. All of it now destined for Michael in Seattle instead of the daughter who'd called me a burden. By 1:15 p.m., the new will was signed, witnessed, and filed. I walked out of Robert's office with a sealed envelope containing a copy. I felt lighter than I had in weeks, not because of what I'd taken away from Jessie, but because of what I'd taken back, control over my own life. At home, I placed the envelope prominently on the kitchen counter, right where Jessie would see it. Then I positioned myself in the living room with the newspaper, settling into my recliner, where I could hear everything. At 2:45 p.m., I heard their car door slam. Jessie's voice carried through the front door. "Hope he didn't try to cook anything while we were gone." The front door opened, followed by the rustle of shopping bags and footsteps heading toward the kitchen. Then silence, then a sharp intake of breath that could have cut glass. The envelope crackled as Jessie tore it open. "Chris." Her voice was barely a whisper. "Chris, get in here now." "What's wrong? You look like you've seen a... Look at this." Papers rustled frantically. "That old bastard changed his will." "What do you mean changed it?" Chris's voice was sharp with alarm. Jessie read aloud, her voice shaking with rage. "To Michael Brooks, my son, I leave my entire estate, including but not limited to my residence at 847 Maple Drive, all bank accounts, investment portfolios, and personal property." "That can't be legal. When did he do this?" "It's dated today. Today, Chris, while we were out buying groceries like good little caretakers, he was downtown signing away our future." "How much are we talking about? The house alone is worth $450. Jessie's voice cracked. "We just lost over $700,000 to my brother, who hasn't visited in 2 years. There has to be a way to challenge this mental incompetence, undue influence something." Jessie's laugh was bitter and sharp. "Oh, there's more. Listen to this, Jim. To Jessica Brooks Miller, my daughter, I leave the sum of $1,000 for reasons she will understand." The kitchen fell silent. "For reasons she will understand," Chris repeated slowly. "What the hell does that mean?" "It means he knows." Jessie's voice had gone cold, calculating. "Somehow that senile old man figured out what we were planning." "That's impossible. He can't hear a damn thing. We've been talking right in front of him for weeks." Then explain this. Papers slammed down on the counter. Explain how a confused deaf old man managed to get himself to a lawyer's office and rewrite his entire will without us knowing. I forced myself to breathe slowly, evenly, maintaining the rhythm of someone peacefully napping. Every instinct screamed at me to laugh, but the game was far from over. Okay, Chris said, his voice taking on a forced calm. Let's think about this logically. Maybe he's not as out of it as we thought. Maybe he's been testing us. Testing us. Jesse's voice rose dangerously. Testing us by pretending to be deaf while we planned his future? That manipulative son of a... Keep your voice down. He's right in the next room. I don't care if he hears me. If he's been playing games, then the games are over. Footsteps moved toward the living room. I closed my eyes completely. Dad. Jesse's voice was sickeningly sweet again. Dad, are you awake? I stirred slowly, blinking in confusion. Oh, Jessie, did you have a good shopping trip? She stared at me, searching my face. Dad, did you go anywhere today? While we were out? I tilted my head, looking genuinely puzzled. Go somewhere? No, I stayed right here. Why would I go anywhere? You didn't visit anyone? Make any phone calls? Phone calls. I touched my ears with a sad smile. Sweetheart, I can't hear well enough for phone calls right now. You know that. Jessie's jaw tightened, but she forced her expression back. Of course I forgot. I'm sorry, Dad. She walked back to the kitchen, and I heard her urgent whisper to Chris. Either he's the best actor in the world, or we're missing something. What do you want to do? Call Dr. Henderson. Tell him we need those papers tomorrow, not next week. If Dad's playing games, we'll show him exactly how this game ends. And if he really is confused, if this whole thing is just some kind of coincidence. Jesse's laugh was cold as winter wind. Then he won't remember signing it anyway, will he? Either way, by Friday he'll be declared incompetent, and we'll contest this will as the product of a diseased mind. I sat in my chair, a smile pulling at the corners of my mouth. The sound of Jessie stabbing numbers into the kitchen phone carried clearly. She was calling someone. Michael, thank God you answered. Her voice was high and strained. No, everything is not okay. Dad has completely lost his mind. He changed his will, Michael. Everything goes to you now. The house, the savings, everything. He's cut me out completely, except for some insulting $1,000 token. I could hear Michael's voice faintly. When today, while Chris and I were out buying groceries like good little caretakers, he was downtown signing away my future. Jesse's voice cracked with what sounded like genuine tears. I've sacrificed everything to take care of him, Michael. Everything. I moved in here, gave up my own life, and this is how he repays me. He's not mentally competent anymore, Michael. You have to understand that this will, it's the product of a diseased mind. You need to refuse the inheritance. It should be split fairly between us. A pause, and then her voice turned dangerously cold. How dare you judge me, Michael? You visit once a year if we're lucky. Send a Christmas card, and suddenly you're the expert on what Dad needs. I heard the phone slam down. I stirred in my chair and looked around. Jessie, was someone on the phone? I thought I heard voices. She whirled around, her face still flushed with rage, but immediately tried to rearrange her features. Oh, Dad. Yes, I was just talking to Michael. I blinked at her, touching my ears. Michael, my son, Michael, is everything all right? You look upset. Dad, we need to talk about your will. About the changes you made today. I stared at her blankly. My will. I don't understand. What changes? Never mind, Dad. It's complicated. Why don't you just rest? If you're sure everything's all right, I said, standing slowly. I think I'll go lie down. All this excitement has me feeling tired. I made my way upstairs, but once I reached my bedroom and closed the door, I moved with purpose. I dialed Michael's number from memory. Michael, it's Dad. There was a long pause. Dad, Jessie said you were having hearing problems. How are you calling me? Son, I need you to sit down. What I'm about to tell you will shock you, but I need you to keep this conversation between us. Can you promise me that? Of course, Dad. What's going on? I took a deep breath. Michael, I can hear every word you're saying perfectly. My hearing came back 3 days ago, completely restored. But I haven't told Jessie because I discovered what she really thinks of me. What do you mean? She called me that old burden, Michael. I heard her and Chris planning to put me in a nursing home so they could sell this house and buy property in Whitefish with my money. Michael's sharp intake of breath was audible. Dad, are you absolutely certain about this? Son, I heard every word. They've been planning this for weeks, maybe months. They even have a doctor friend who's going to forge medical evaluations to have me declared incompetent. The silence stretched so long I thought we'd been disconnected. Michael, are you there? I'm here, Dad. I'm just processing this. That phone call Jessie just made. She was trying to get me to refuse the inheritance, wasn't she? That's exactly what she was doing. She wants you to think I'm losing my mind, so you'll voluntarily give up what I chose to leave you. Dad, I'm so sorry. I should have known something was wrong. I should have visited more often. You have your own family, son. I understood that. But now I need your help. Michael, they're moving faster than I expected. I think they're going to try something tomorrow. Michael, they're planning to have you declared incompetent on Friday morning. We can't let that happen. No, we can't. But I have an idea. When Jessie calls you back, and she will, I want you to play along. Tell her you're concerned about my mental state. Maybe suggest you're thinking of coming to visit this weekend. You want me to lie to her. I want you to give her enough rope to hang herself with. She's going to call you again, probably tonight. She's desperate now, and desperate people make mistakes. From downstairs came the sound of urgent voices. I pressed the phone closer to my ear. Hold on, Michael. They're planning something. Jessie's voice carried clearly up through the heating vent. Dr. Henderson confirmed Friday morning at 10 o'clock. He'll do the evaluation here at the house. Chris responded. What if the old man refuses to cooperate? He won't have a choice. Henderson will say he's displaying signs of dementia, confusion, memory loss, inability to make rational decisions. With the will change as evidence of mental instability. We'll have grounds for a competency hearing. And Michael's having doubts about Dad's mental state. I planted the seeds tonight. If I call him back tomorrow with more concerns, he might even support having Dad evaluated. I returned to the phone, my voice grim. Michael, did you hear any of that? Enough. Dad, they're planning to have you declared incompetent on Friday morning. We can't let that happen. No, we can't. But I have an idea. When Jessie calls you tomorrow, I want you to sound worried about me. Tell her you think an evaluation might be a good idea. Dad, I don't like lying to family. Son, she stopped being family the moment she decided to steal my independence and sell my home. She's counting on your decency to help her commit fraud. Michael was quiet for a moment. You're right. What else do you need me to do? Should I come there? Keep playing the concerned brother until I give you the signal. And Michael, document everything she tells you. Every lie, every manipulation. We might need it later. What are you planning, Dad? I'm planning to remind your sister exactly who she's been underestimating. She thinks she's dealing with a confused, helpless old man. Tomorrow she's going to discover just how wrong she's been. Don't worry about me, son. I survived 30 years as a construction engineer and 5 years of grief. I can handle one greedy daughter and her worthless husband. Through the kitchen window blinds, I watched Jessie and Chris load shopping bags into their 2018 Ford Escape. We'll be back by 2 p.m. I heard Chris call toward the house. Don't forget Dr. Henderson comes tomorrow at 10 sharp. Jessie's voice carried across the driveway. Dad, we're going shopping. Back soon. I remained motionless behind the blinds until their car disappeared around the corner. Then I allowed myself a smile. 3 hours. More than enough time to prepare their farewell gift. I walked slowly through the house, taking inventory. Jessie had made herself quite comfortable in the guest bedroom. Her dresser drawers overflowed with expensive clothes, jewelry, all purchased with credit cards that showed my address as the billing location. Chris had claimed the guest closet for his belongings. 3 business suits, golf clubs, an expensive laptop. From the basement storage room, I retrieved 2 large suitcases Margaret and I had used for our anniversary trips to Yellowstone. I began with Jesse's things, folding each item with the same meticulous care I'd once used for architectural blueprints. Her wedding dress, the college photo albums. Chris's belongings went into the second suitcase. His expensive electronics, his golf accessories, the leather portfolio. Everything they'd brought into my house. As I packed, I found myself remembering Margaret's words. That girl takes everything you give her and asks for more. When will it be enough, Thomas? Never, I said aloud to the empty room. It will never be enough. I carried both suitcases to the living room and positioned them prominently in front of the couch, where they couldn't possibly be missed. My phone buzzed with a text from Michael. How are you holding up, Dad? Still planning for this afternoon? I typed back. Everything ready. Wish me luck. I settled into my recliner with the newspaper, positioning myself where I could see the front door clearly. The living room looked perfect, with the 2 suitcases sitting like monuments to betrayal in the center of it all. At 1:45 p.m., I heard the familiar sound of their car pulling into the driveway. Car door slammed, followed by Jesse's laughter. I think we got everything for tomorrow's. Jesse's voice cut off mid-sentence as the front door swung open. The sound of shopping bags hitting the hardwood floor echoed through the hallway. What the hell? Chris's voice was sharp with confusion. Jesse, are these our suitcases? Dad, what is this? She called out, her voice climbing toward hysteria. Then something extraordinary happened. Jesse's voice changed completely, filling with genuine excitement. Oh my God, Chris, he's finally packed. You mean the old man is actually leaving? Chris caught on immediately, his voice lighting up with joy. I can't believe it. Finally, he's going to Sunset Manor. We won't have to go through with the whole Dr. Henderson thing. This is perfect. We can start the renovations next week. Maybe even call that contractor in Whitefish. $700,000, Chris. We're finally going to be free. They were celebrating what they thought was my surrender. Every cruel word confirmed exactly who they really were. I slowly lowered my newspaper and looked directly at them. No, sweetheart, I said in a perfectly clear, perfectly calm voice. You are leaving my house. Jessie's face went white as paper. The excited smile froze on her lips before crumbling into an expression of pure horror. Dad, did you hear me? Her voice was barely a whisper. Thomas, how long have you been able to hear? Chris stepped backward toward the door. Every single word since I got home from the hospital 3 days ago. Jessie's hand flew to her mouth. You heard everything we said? Every conversation about me being that old burden. Every discussion about selling my house. Every plan to have me declared incompetent so you could steal my life. Chris's face had gone from pale to red. Thomas, we were just frustrated. We didn't mean. You meant every word. I cut him off. I know exactly who you are now, Chris. Both of you. Jessie's eyes filled with tears, but I could see the calculation behind them. Dad, we can explain. We were just worried about you. We thought you needed more care than we could provide. You calculated losing $700,000 of my money like it was already yours. I said, my voice steady and cold. You planned to have me declared mentally incompetent, using forged medical evaluations. That was Chris's idea. Jessie pointed at her husband desperately. I would never do that to you. You called me a burden, Jessica, in my own house while planning to steal my independence and sell my home. Chris's shock was giving way to anger. You can't just kick us out. We have nowhere to go. We gave up our apartment to take care of you. You moved in here because you couldn't afford your own place, I replied calmly. And now you'll learn what it's like to find one without my help. Jessie dropped to her knees beside my chair, grabbing my arm. Please, Dad, I'm your daughter. I made a mistake, but I love you. If you loved me, Jessica, you wouldn't have called me a burden. You wouldn't have planned to have me declared crazy. You wouldn't have celebrated what you thought was my defeat. I pointed to the suitcases. You have everything you brought into my house. That's more than you deserve. Jessie's composition shattered. Dad, you're breaking my heart. I'm your little girl. Mom would be devastated to see you treating your own daughter this way. Your mother warned me about your selfishness before she died, Jessica. She said, watch out for Jessie. She only comes around when she needs something. Jessie's tear-streaked face went pale. She never said that. You're making it up. She said it after you asked me for $5,000 to pay for your anniversary cruise while she was in hospice care. Chris tried a new angle. Thomas, look, we all made mistakes here. But we're family. We can work this out. You showed me exactly who you really are, I replied steadily. And I believe you. Chris was frantic. You can't just throw us out like garbage. We have legal rights here. Actually, Chris, you have zero legal rights to my house. You're not tenants. You're house guests who have worn out their welcome. We'll contest the will. We'll prove you're mentally incompetent. No sane person would disinherit their own daughter. I smiled calmly. Good luck with that. My lawyer has recordings of all our conversations about your plans. The blood drained from Chris's face. What recordings? Jessie's voice had gone cold. Fine, she said, standing up. We'll leave, but you'll regret this, Dad. You'll be all alone, and when you need help, we won't be there. I'd been alone for 3 years, I replied calmly. At least now I won't have to pretend I'm not. They moved toward the front door, struggling with their suitcases. At the threshold, Jessie turned back one last time. If you change your mind. I won't. I cut her off. And don't call me asking for money. The door slammed behind them with a finality that echoed through the house. I stood at the living room window, watching Jessie and Chris struggle to fit their suitcases into their Ford Escape. Finally, they pulled out of my driveway for the last time. The silence that followed was unlike anything I'd experienced in years. Not the quiet of deafness, but genuine peace. I felt light, as if I'd been carrying a heavy burden for years. My cell phone buzzed. Michael. Dad, how did it go? Are you okay? Son, they're gone. It's over. How are you feeling? Are you sure you're all right? I feel free for the first time since your mother died. I'm proud of you, Dad. Standing up for yourself like that. Mom would be proud, too. You gave Jessie every chance to be the daughter you deserved. That's not a failure, Dad. That's love. After we hung up, I made myself dinner and ate it at the kitchen table while watching the sunset. No one complained about the food. No one calculated how much my meal cost. I walked through the house one more time. I removed the photos that included Jessie and stored them in a drawer, not out of cruelty, but because I wanted to remember the good times without the bitter knowledge of how they'd ended. The mantel looked cleaner somehow, more honest. In my study, I pulled out a legal pad and began making a list. Call the bank about removing Jessie as emergency contact. Update my medical directives. Schedule lunch with old friends. Plan a trip to Seattle to visit Michael and the grandchildren. I was alone, but I was in control. My life, my choices, my future. The game was over, and the old man had won his life back. For the first time in years, I was planning a future instead of just enduring the present. As I prepared for bed, I thought about something Margaret used to tell me during our early years together. Some people see kindness as weakness, Thomas, but they're wrong. Kindness is strength. And when you finally stop giving it to people who don't deserve it, that's wisdom. I'd finally learned the difference. In the quiet of my bedroom, I could hear my own breathing, steady and calm. No voices plotting in the kitchen below. No footsteps pacing with barely contained greed. Just the sound of a man at peace in his own home. Tomorrow I would wake up in a house where I was wanted, where I belonged, where every decision was mine to make. I smiled in the darkness and slept better than I had in years. I realized I'd been enabling every request because I confused generosity with love. I opened my current bank statement and compared it to the nursing home costs they discussed. Sunset Manor at $4,800 monthly would consume my savings in less than 4 years. But that wasn't their concern. They wanted the house money up front for their new life in Whitefish. My phone sat on the desk, silent and accusatory. When had Jessie last called just to talk? Every conversation for the past 5 years had ended with a request. Help with Chris's car payment. Loan money for a vacation. Contribute to their anniversary cruise. I thought I was being a good father. But Margaret had seen the truth even then. "You're creating a dependency, Thomas," she'd said after I'd paid for Jessie's third car repair in 6 months. "She needs to learn to solve her own problems." "She's our daughter," I'd argued. "We help family." "There's a difference between helping and enabling," Margaret had replied. "And there's a difference between gratitude and entitlement." Now, surrounded by the evidence of my misguided generosity, I understood. Jessie hadn't learned to appreciate my help. She'd learned to expect it. And when I became the one needing care, she'd seen only a burden blocking her access to what she'd always considered rightfully hers. I looked at the photo of Jessie one more time, then placed it face down in the drawer. The girl in that picture, if she'd ever really existed, was gone. In her place was a woman who would fabricate mental illness to steal my independence, who would conspire with a borrowed doctor to declare me incompetent, who would sell the home where her mother died to fund her own dreams. They thought they were so clever, planning my future while I sat upstairs, deaf and docile. They thought they were dealing with a confused old man who would gratefully accept whatever scraps of care they offered. But I wasn't confused. I was angry, and I was going to call Bob Henley first thing in the morning. I reached for my address book, flipping to the H section where I'd written Bob's home number years ago. Some conversations couldn't wait for business hours. Jessie had taught me a valuable lesson about family loyalty. Now I was going to teach her one about consequences. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the right. Thank you for watching.